The Sunrise Community Credit Union feels extra bright on the sharp autumn morning lemon polish in the air. Coffee drifting from somewhere behind the counters, keyboards murmuring their steady rhythm. I sit in a burgundy chair by the tall windows, drumming my fingers on the padded armrest while red and gold leaves skate across the parking lot outside. It'll be quick. Steph, just a small refinance. That's what Victor said over breakfast, buttering toast like he was discussing the weather. They just need your signature as co-borrower. Now, with the branch manager's hands trembling as he nudges a stack of papers across his mahogany desk. I understand nothing about this is small. Ms. Adler. Howard Langley clears his throat. His silver-rimmed glasses catch the fluorescent light as he taps a blue pen on a signature line. I have to flag some inconsistencies. Our system pulled a verification alert. This. He slides a page closer. Appears to be your signature on documents from 3 months ago. Victor shifts beside me, cologne suddenly too strong. What are you insinuating? He stops, darting a look at my mother, who sits ramrod straight, lips pressed flat. I study the looping script on the page. It resembles my name the way a mask resembles a face close enough to fool a stranger. The room tilts a degree. I never signed this. My voice sounds distant, like it's traveling through water. Don't be ridiculous. Stephanie, Victor says, color rising in his cheeks. You signed at the house after your birthday dinner. I was in Chicago on my birthday, I say, steadier. Presenting. I didn't sign anything. Victor stands so fast his chair skitters backward. This is absurd. We'll take our business elsewhere. He clamps a hand around my arm, fingers digging hard. Let's go. I pull free. No, his eyes flatten. Don't make a scene. When I don't move, something in him snaps. He shoves me. I stumble into the rope divider. The chrome post clatters to the tile, and the whole lobby goes silent. Fabric tears across my collarbone where his nails catch my blouse. Heat blooms under my skin, a sting that feels like it's been traced with a match. My mouth floods with that metallic taste I remember from childhood falls, adrenaline, and fear. This isn't about a refinance. The realization hits with cold clarity. Identity theft. I look at both of them, the man who promised 11 years ago to be the dad you never had, and my mother, who brought him into our life when I was still raw from losing my father to cancer. You forged my signature, I whisper, feeling like I'm saying someone else's nightmare out loud. How could you? Victor looms, familiar features sharpened by anger. My mother stares down at a tissue she keeps tearing into thin white threads. This can't be legal, I hear myself say. And the fog in my head parts just enough to reveal a pattern. Their sudden interest in my promotion, the curious questions about my savings, the envelopes that sometimes arrived already opened by accident. A security guard steps closer, measured movements and watchful eyes. Victor points a shaking finger at me. You ungrateful little... I move behind Mr. Langley's desk and let the solid wood be my shield. I'm not signing anything, I tell them, voice steadier than my heartbeat. Don't humiliate us here, my mother breathes. Family helps family. That old phrase, her lifelong charm and cudgel lands like a command. It always has. Money, time, favors flowing one direction. You're overreacting, Victor says, tugging at his jacket to regain composure. This was just to help with the retail plaza investment. It benefits all of us. The retail plaza, his latest sure thing, following a food truck franchise, vacation rentals, crypto every plan that ate their savings and demanded mine. Mr. Langley clears his throat again, voice careful. Ms. Adler, I should also tell you, this is not the first document with your signature we've seen. He glances at Victor, then back to me. There appear to be multiple accounts in your name. Lines of credit, personal loans. The room goes very quiet. Victor's eyes flick to the guard. My mother clutches his sleeve, knuckles white. They stand together. I stand alone. I need to make a phone call, I say, hand shaking as I reach for my cell. While Victor argues with the guard, I step into a small side office and hit my brother's number. Caleb, I need you. Sunrise Credit Union, I say, and my voice breaks on the last word. 20 minutes later, his work truck slides into a spot by the window. He strides in wearing paint-spattered jeans and a flannel, dusted with sawdust, the uniform of someone who left a job mid-task because his sister called. Let me see. He tilts my chin, eyes moving to the scratch on my collarbone. His carpenter's hands that once steadied the back of my bike and later hauled my boxes up 3 flights of stairs are impossibly gentle, got the choice in front of me sharpens. Pretend this never happened and preserve a fragile, false peace, or take a stand that will change my relationship with my mother and stepfather forever. Caleb reads my face. Document everything, he says quietly before they invent a story. His blue eyes, our father's eyes, don't waver. The Air Force didn't just teach him engine schematics. It gave him a spine of steel. I straighten my torn blouse. Something in me sets like concrete hardening. I want to know exactly what they've done. 3 days after the bank explosion, I sit across from Carmen Velasquez, whose downtown office smells faintly of rain and lemon oil. Framed judgments line the wall-quiet trophies from 2 decades of dismantling fraud. Beyond the window, the city blurs into watercolor. As a steady drizzle streaks the glass, Carmen fans out credit reports and bank records across her polished desk like a dealer laying down a hand you don't want to see. $62,000 in fraudulent debt, she says, tapping a crimson nail on a highlighted line. And that's the confirmed amount. Air leaves my lungs in one hard exhale. That can't be right. But there it is in black and white. 4 credit cards blown past their limits and now in collections. An auto loan application rejected because of a so-called poor payment history. A personal loan with an interest rate that could make a banker blush. Each document neatly tied to my name. All statements routed to your mother's address. Carmen adds, sliding over another sheet. Classic mail diversion. Very common in family-initiated identity theft. I stare at an unfamiliar P.O. box printed beside my name. I never set that up. Of course you didn't. Based on what your bank manager shared, Victor has been using your identity for at least 3 years. She lifts another folder. And he didn't do it alone. Brandon Weiss, loan officer at Sunrise, processed the majority of these. Signature verification was manually overwritten each time. A cold numbness washes over me as the scale of it settles. This wasn't an impulse. It was a system. This isn't sloppy theft, Carmen says, reading my face. It's coordinated, and it's not his first time. She hesitates, then slides a thin file forward. We found a nearly identical pattern involving his first wife's daughter. Settled quietly a decade ago. The floor drops away. He's done this before? She nods, different bank. Same tricks. Memories reorder themselves, my mother's family helps family speeches. Victor's probing questions about my bonuses disguised as pride, envelopes arriving pre-opened. Always by mistake. The questions about my new apartment, I murmur. Mail that appeared. Touched. None of it was accidental. The office door clicks open. Caleb enters with coffee and a manila folder. Sawdust still clings to his flannel. Found something in Dad's old files, he says, setting the folder on the desk. Your inheritance, $20,000 from his life insurance held in trust till you turn 25. I look up, pulse thudding. What inheritance? Exactly, he says, jaw tight. The money vanished 3 months after your 25th birthday. A different hurt rips through me, not just theft, but the theft of safety, of a future that should have been mine. They didn't just take money, I whisper. They took my landing pad. Carmen watches, letting the truth settle rather than rush it. Here's what we'll need, she says at last, sliding me a checklist, sworn affidavits, bank correspondence, copies of every forged document, a detailed timeline. We pursue 2 tracks: criminal charges for identity theft and bank fraud, civil action for restitution. This wasn't opportunistic, I say, hearing my voice steady. They build an engine. And engines leave tracks, Carmen answers. Paper trails always do. Caleb returns with another stack of printed pages. Background on Victor gambling debts, failed investments, 3 collection judgments in the past year. He pauses. And Mom owns a rental on Mapleview she's never reported. She's pleaded hardship to you for years. Carmen turns a page. Victor's already on thin ice with other creditors. Without fast cash, jail time was coming, this or something else. They're not movie villains, I say quietly, surprising myself. Just people caught in their own compounding lies. My phone buzzes with a voicemail. I place it on speaker. My mother's voice spills out, soft and wet with tears. Stephanie, please call. Victor only meant this to be temporary, just until we got through. We never wanted it to go this far. A text pings right after from a family friend. Victor says you're overreacting. No one will believe you over your mother. Carmen and Caleb trade a look. We all hear the tactic beneath the words. Isolate, guilt, discredit. They have nothing left to lose. I say slowly, feeling a new, colder clarity. Which makes them dangerous. Carmen closes a folder with a decisive snap. Then we move precisely. Criminal complaint and victim affidavit immediately. Civil complaint to follow. I'll coordinate with the bank's fraud unit. Caleb leans forward, voice low and steady. My spare room's yours. Deadlocks. Nosy neighbors. Stay until this is over. Howard's pulling 5 years of bank records, Carmen adds. And the credit union will issue a formal victim statement to start clearing your credit. A lump rises in my throat, not grief this time, but something like relief. 3 days ago, I faced them alone across a mahogany desk. Now I have a team. You're not fighting this by yourself, Carmen says, reading my thoughts. That's what abusers count on: family silence. I study the mountain of evidence, not just betrayal anymore, but a blueprint for justice. Something solid clicks into place inside me. Let's get to work, I say, picking up the pen and saying the first affidavit. Later. Victor's old laptop sits on my kitchen table like a black box from a crash site. Caleb found it shoved behind coats in my hallway closet. See what's on it, he'd said, voice careful. I tried the password. My birthday. Of course. The screen wakes to a mess of icons. I click through folders, vacation photos, stray documents, nothing useful. I'm about to close it when I notice a folder labeled investment tracking. Inside, a single Excel file named property_management.xlsx. Password protected. I try my birthday again. Denied. My mother's. Denied. Their anniversary. The file opens. A sprawling spreadsheet blossoms across the screen, color-coded tabs gleaming like warning lights. The first sheet knocks the breath from my lungs. A precise ledger of my credit card's limits. Due dates, balances, every line in my name. I click through. Another tab cross-references credit bureau reporting cycles. Another lists payment minimums with notes like, pay $50 over to keep score stable. Then I hit a tab labeled Sasa accounts. My accounts, checking, savings, retirement, even a line that reads, bonus expected March 15th till the $4,200 net. How did they know that? The next tab answers me an email thread between Victor and Brandon Weiss from Sunrise. Credit union, Brandon. Use the signature from the application, not the signature card, fewer questions. Victor, Lillian found an old signature from Steph's high school graduation card. Vintage Stephanie before she changed her style. My stomach turns. My mother had supplied the signature sample herself. Another tab lists my work travel dates, cities, confirmation numbers paired with notes like mail intercepted, package removed, replaced before Sunday. They waited until I was out of town. Took my mail. Put it back before I returned. Carmen answers on the first ring. Talk to me. I found the map, I say calm, almost eerily. A full spreadsheet, accounts, limits, payment schedules. Emails between Victor and Weiss, notes from my mother on which signature to use. And a travel grid matching new applications to when I was gone. She exhales, equal parts anger and satisfaction. Premeditation, conspiracy, this is gold. Email it now, then make a physical backup. I send the file, save 2 copies to separate drives, and sit back in the kitchen chair as a strange peace settles over me. The fog of the last few weeks finally lifts. I understand what they did, I tell her. And I can prove it. Sunday afternoon, we walk up the brick path to the white colonial where I survived high school. I chose broad daylight on purpose. Neighbors gardening, walking dogs, trimming hedges, eyes. Caleb squeezes my hand. Ready? I nod and clutch my leather portfolio, printed spreadsheets, email chains, and a completed restraining order form. All it needs is his signature fail that a deputy will serve it. Victor opens the door. His polished smile falters when he sees my brother's solid frame behind me. Stephanie, he says tightly, this is unexpected. We need to talk, I answer, voice clear. All of us. My mother appears in the hallway, drying her hands on a dish towel. Color drains from her face. What's happening? We'll talk inside, I say, and step over the threshold without waiting for permission. This house no longer intimidates me. In the living room, Victor positions himself near the fireplace, angling for height and control. Caleb plants himself between us, no words, just a presence that shifts the geometry of the room. What is this? Victor barks. We've called you for days. I set my portfolio on the coffee table and slide out the first printout. I have the spreadsheets, I say evenly, and Brandon Weiss is cooperating. All color drains from his face. My mother sinks onto the edge of the sofa. I don't know what you think you. Victor starts. Account ending in 621 open January 14th, I read. Account 7,830 March 8th. The sort card with a 24,000 limit that's maxed out. I lift my gaze. Through the window, Mr. Peterson pretends to deadhead roses while watching us like a hawk. We were going to pay it all back before you even knew. My mother whispers, like you did with your first wife's daughter. I ask quietly. Victor flinches. He takes 1 step forward. Caleb takes 1 step forward. Victor stops. This is a family matter, he hisses. We can settle it privately. I slide the restraining order form across the table. Sign to acknowledge receipt or the police will deliver it. Your choice. You wouldn't, my mother gasps. She already has, Caleb says, calm as weather. Officers are waiting on our call. Victor's jaw works. Finally, he grabs the pen. The signature he leaves is jagged with rage. This isn't over. Actually, it is, I say, gathering the papers. The bank is freezing the fraudulent accounts. Any contact violates the order. I stand and straighten my shoulders. Outside, 2 more neighbors have joined Mr. Peterson at the hedge line. Good. Let's go. I tell Caleb. I walk out without looking back. Behind me, my mother starts to cry. I keep moving. The autumn air is shockingly clean. With every step toward my brother's truck, I feel taller. Back at Caleb's bungalow, garlic and tomatoes warm the small kitchen. Carmen arrives with Italian takeout and a bottle of champagne she doesn't open yet, to facing down bullies. Caleb says, raising his glass of water. Same as when we were kids. And this time, Carmen adds, allowing herself a small, proud smile, the law is on your side. Your documentation is impeccable. My phone rings. Howard Langley. Ms. Adler, he says formally, Brandon Weiss has submitted a full confession. He's cooperating with authorities regarding his role with your stepfather. Thank you, I say, the weight in my chest shifting at last. A knock at the door. Mrs. Garcia from 2 houses down stands on the porch with a warm apple pie. We saw earlier, she says, pressing it into my hands. Always thought he was off about money. You did the right thing. Later, I sit on the porch swing as the sky goes pink behind the oaks. The scent of cinnamon drifts up from the pie on the table. Carmen and Caleb join me, quiet and solid. For the first time since this started, I say, surprising myself with the truth, I feel clean. Do we push criminal charges now? I ask after a beat, or wait to see what else surfaces? Carmen starts to answer, but I lift a hand. Not tonight. I let my shoulders drop. Tonight we mark this win. Tomorrow we plan the next. Caleb clinks his glass against mine. Carmen nods. And for the first time in weeks, my smile reaches my eyes. Asterisk, 1 week later. The sharp scent of coffee and printer ink fills Carmen's conference room. Papers cover the long cherrywood table like puzzle pieces of a crime scene. I spread color-coded folders, red for criminal filings, blue for restitution, yellow for credit restoration, each one representing a new wall between me and the people who raised me. This, I say, tapping the red folder, is the criminal complaint draft, complete with input from the prosecutor's office. I want maximum impact on the identity theft charges. Carmen's silver-streaked hair gleams in the morning light as she flips through it. They're impressed, she says. The documentation is airtight, rarely do victims come this prepared. Caleb sets 3 binders on the table, exhaustion etched into the lines around his eyes. Family history timeline, he explains quietly. How they went from borrowing money to forging signatures. His hands, once steady from years of carpentry, tremble slightly as he arranges the binders. The credit bureaus have issued fraud flags on all accounts. Carmen adds, checking off items on her legal pad. No new lines can be opened under your name. I nod and add another piece to the fortress. Howard sent the bank's full internal report. Brandon Weiss gave a sworn statement about Victor's instructions to bypass verification. Carmen scans the thick file. Between the bank evidence, Brandon's testimony, and the spreadsheet from the laptop, this is one of the strongest family fraud cases I've ever seen. I step back and look at the mound of evidence witness statements, bank logs, signature analyses. What once felt like chaos now forms a narrative. Not just betrayal, but a pattern. We're not just stopping them, I say, my voice even. We're making sure they never do this again. Carmen studies me for a beat. You've come a long way since the bank. I meet her gaze. That woman was blindsided. This one's prepared? Before she can respond, my phone buzzes. Unknown number. Hello? Ms. Adler? A steady voice replies. Officer Merritt, Palm Lakes PD. There's been a break-in at your apartment. You should come down. For a second, my world shrinks to static. 30 minutes later, I stand amid shattered glass. My apartment looks like a war zone, drawers pulled out, photos smashed. The air thick with dust and the stench of spray paint. Scrawled across my kitchen wall in dripping red letters. Family first. The words seem to pulse in the dim light. 3 feet tall and full of menace, Officer Merritt photographs every corner, her flash slicing through the dark. Neighbor heard glass break around 3 a.m. The security camera was cut first, but we're pulling footage from nearby traffic cams. Caleb's jaw flexes beside me. That's a restraining order violation, he says, his voice steel. Victor was ordered to stay 500 feet away. I step over the debris, noticing my file cabinet pried open, papers shredded and scattered like snow. My home office, once a sanctuary, is gutted. They were searching, I whisper, looking for the originals, for anything that ties them down. Officer Merritt pauses. They didn't find what they wanted then? They couldn't, I say quietly. We already copied everything. Later, at the station, the sergeant asks, any idea what they were after? Everything, I answer. But mostly, they wanted to scare me. He studies me over the report. Did it work? I picture the dripping red paint, the shredded memories. Then I shake my head. No, it confirms I'm doing the right thing. Back at Caleb's house, the three of us gather around takeout containers no one touches. Carmen scrolls through her tablet, her expression grim. There's more, she says, finally. Victor's been asking questions at the courthouse about my cases, trying to learn which ones I've lost. He's digging for ways to discredit us. He's escalating, I murmur. He knows the walls are closing in. Should I find another lawyer? I ask after a moment. I won't risk your safety. Carmen looks up, her voice calm and fierce. Absolutely not. This is what I do, Stephanie. Intimidation's their last refuge. It means we're winning. That night, we work late, triple encrypting files, creating backups, and securing duplicates at the law firm, the bank, and Caleb's workshop safe. Caleb installs extra locks and cameras. His movement's efficient, protective dot by dawn. Exhaustion clings to all of us, but the resolve in the room feels unbreakable. The next morning, Carmen's office hums with quiet urgency. Prosecutor Jackson Reeves joins us, silver hair and a bow tie that somehow softens his no-nonsense presence, all documentation indexed and ready. He asks Doc Carmen slides him a thick binder. Everything's cross-referenced. Security enhanced at all addresses after last night's break-in. Jackson flips through a few pages, eyebrows lifting. I've prosecuted identity theft for 20 years, he says, but I've never seen a victim build a stronger case. Caleb places a hand on my shoulder. She's done everything right, he says simply. Carmen smiles faintly. We file charges tomorrow. Tomorrow. The word hangs heavy and bright. Like sunrise over cold water dot, I think of the message on my wall, family first, and feel something inside me crystallize. Not fear this time. Not grief. Just readiness. I'm ready, I say, and this time, I mean it. The morning fog hasn't yet lifted when my phone buzzes across Caleb's coffee table. Carmen's name glows on the screen 3 hours earlier than our planned call. Her voice comes sharp and breathless. They vandalized the lake cabin. I sit upright so fast the mug tips, cold coffee pooling across my lap. How bad? Bad enough, she says. Broken windows, spray paint across the living room walls. The sheriff called it in. And there's more. Stephanie Victor filed an emergency petition in court this morning. I grip the edge of the table. A petition for what? He's claiming you're mentally unstable, she says flatly, and that you fabricated the fraud case out of spite after a family argument. My breath snags. He can't. He can try, Carmen cuts in. His attorney's spinning it as a domestic misunderstanding. They're using this to delay the prosecutor's review. Classic misdirection. My phone pings again, a text from Marjorie, my mother's oldest friend. Your mom is heartbroken, Steph. How could you turn on your own family? 3 more messages follow in rapid succession, each dripping with sympathy for my parents, each condemning me. They're poisoning the well, I whisper, turning the whole church against me. They're cornered, Carmen says, and cornered people make noise. Listen, what about those wildlife cameras your brother installed at the cabin? The ones for the herons? I blink, realization dawning. They timestamp every image with GPS. Exactly. If those caught Victor trespassing, we'll have proof of a restraining order violation. Can Caleb get those to me fast? Before I can answer, the front door swings open and Caleb strides in, laptop under one arm, jaw set. Already downloading them? He tilts the screen toward me. Look, Victor, red Buick, 5:32 a.m., smashing the cabin window with a crowbar. Relief surges through me so sharply I laugh, half wild. He caught himself on camera. Carmen's voice tightens with professional focus. Send everything immediately. We'll attach it to our emergency motion. They've overplayed their hand. Outside, the first real sunlight cuts through the fog. For the first time in days, it feels like light belongs to me again. By noon, Carmen has already filed the response to Victor's petition. The cabin photos, with precise timestamps, sit on the judge's desk as exhibits. Meanwhile, my phone keeps buzzing church members, neighbors, old family friends. Each message repeats my mother's lines word for word. We just want our daughter back. This is a family misunderstanding. Pray for reconciliation. She's weaponizing sympathy. I tell Carmen when she calls back. Half the congregation thinks I'm having some kind of breakdown. Let them, Carmen replies. The court doesn't rule on gossip, it rules on evidence. And we've got plenty. When's the hearing? Tomorrow morning. 8 sharp. So soon? Exactly what we want. No time for them to rewrite the story. She hesitates. Stephanie, there's more. The prosecutor issued an arrest warrant for Victor an hour ago. Property damage, restraining order violation, fraud evidence. He'll be picked up tonight. For a long moment, I just stare at the wall, letting the words land. It's finally happening. Carmen's voice softens. It's justice beginning, not ending. Are you ready to face them tomorrow? I nod, though she can't see me. Yes. At 9 p.m., my phone rings again. Unknown number. This is Officer Reeves with County Sheriffs, the voice says. We've detained Victor Keene. Violation of your restraining order. He's in custody. I thank him quietly and hang up. Caleb checks every lock in the house, then sets his tools by the door. You should rest, he says. Tomorrow's going to be a long day, but sleep refuses to come. I pace the small guest room, reviewing every line of testimony until the words blur. The fear that once paralyzed me feels distant now. This isn't terror anymore, it's focused out at midnight. My phone buzzes again. A final text glows on the screen. We're still your parents. It's not too late to drop this. I stare at it for a long minute before pressing delete. Some bridges, once burned, aren't meant to be rebuilt. Next morning. Courthouse, the county courthouse, smells of lemon polish and old paper. Sunlight spills through arched windows, scattering dust like confetti in the still air. The benches creak as people fill the room. Church friends, co-workers, neighbors who pretended not to stare when police cars came. Every face is a reminder of how public this betrayal has become. Asterisk Caleb sits beside me, shoulder against mine. You okay? He murmurs. I'm ready, I answer, and realize I mean it. Carmen arranges files with surgical precision. The prosecutor, Jackson Reeves, nods to her before taking his seat. When the side door opens, a hush ripples through the gallery. My mother enters first, dressed in cream and sorrow. Victor follows in gray, his charm rehearsed, his expression the mask of a man misunderstood. Carmen leans toward me. They're playing the worried parent routine. Don't react. The judge enters, Eleanor Winters, known for her cool, cutting fairness. Court is now in session, she announces. Victor's attorney, Lawrence Bentley, rises first. His voice is smooth, almost fatherly. Your Honor, this is nothing more than a tragic family misunderstanding. My clients only sought to assist their daughter financially. She authorized those transactions but changed her mind after a disagreement. Lies so bold they almost steal the breath from my lungs. When my mother takes the stand, her performance is flawless. Tears glisten but never fall. We only wanted to help, she says softly. Stephanie can be impulsive with money. We were trying to protect her. That old phrase hums in my ears. Family helps family. Then Carmen rises, voice calm as a scalpel. Mrs. Keene, you claim your daughter authorized these loans. Please tell the court when and where did that happen? My mother blinks. We talked about it several times. Family dinners? Specific dates, please. After her birthday, maybe February. Carmen holds up a page. According to her employer, Miss Adler was in Chicago that week. I have hotel receipts and conference documentation. Color creeps up my mother's neck. Then March, perhaps. Interesting, Carmen says, voice gentle as snowfall. Because the first fraudulent account opened in January. The courtroom wrestles. Each question peels back another layer of their story until silence hangs heavy, broken only by the scratch of the court reporter's keys. Carmen moves with quiet authority, pacing no more than a few measured steps before the stand. So, Mrs. Keene, she continues, you're telling us your daughter personally authorized these loans, even though her verified signature differs from every document submitted to the bank. My mother swallows. Maybe she was rushed. Her handwriting changes sometimes. Carmen lifts 2 sheets, the forged signature and my real one. You'll notice, she says, her tone clinical, these are not handwriting variations. These are entirely different styles. She turns to the judge. The loops, the pressure points consistent with forgery, not fatigue. Judge Winters adjusts her glasses. Duly noted. Carmen's voice sharpens slightly. Tell me, Mrs. Keene, were you aware of the P.O. box registered under your daughter's name? Silence. It received every credit statement tied to these loans. My mother's gaze drops to her lap. The tissue in her hands is reduced to wet pulp. Victor handled the details. A collective murmur ripples through the courtroom. Carmen allows the silence to linger, then nods. No further questions? The prosecutor rises. The state calls Brandon Weiss. Brandon steps forward, pale and nervous, clutching the railing as if it's all that keeps him upright. Mr. Weiss, the prosecutor begins, what was your role in these transactions? I was the loan officer, Brandon says, voice barely audible. Mr. Keene told me his stepdaughter had authorized everything but was unavailable to sign in person. He said it was a family matter. He pressured me to override the system checks. Did you? Yes. He looks directly at me then, guilt and relief warring in his face. I did. And I'm sorry. Victor's jaw clenches. The charming facade gone. Howard Langley is next, steady as ever, testifying with meticulous precision. Once we caught the first forged document, we reviewed all linked accounts. 7 had fraudulent signatures, each one traced to the same handwriting sample. When Carmen displays the spreadsheet I found on Victor's laptop, the reaction is instantaneous. Even the judge leans forward. Mr. Keene, Carmen says coolly, can you explain why you created a detailed spreadsheet tracking Miss Adler's work schedule, credit limits, and mail delivery times? Victor's eyes flick toward his attorney. I was helping her manage finances by intercepting her mail. Carmen asks. He falters. That's not. Or by coaching a bank employee to falsify documents. Or by using your wife's keepsake box to forge signatures from old graduation cards. Objection. Bentley leaps up. Badgering. Sustained, the judge says evenly. Rephrase, Ms. Velasquez. Carmen steps closer, voice soft but cutting. Mr. Keene, did you or did you not create this spreadsheet? He exhales through his teeth. Yes, but it's not what you think. That will be sufficient, Carmen interrupts, walking back to her seat. She doesn't need to press further. The confession is enough. The truth doesn't need theatrics. It just needs to be undeniable. The prosecutor summarizes methodically bank logs, verified timelines, digital evidence, and the cabin footage that shows Victor breaching the restraining order. The spreadsheet becomes the smoking gun. The time-stamped wildlife photos seal the coffin. By the time the defense begins its closing argument, the courtroom feels different. The tension has shifted. The audience, once whispering, now stares at Victor and my mother with something colder than curiosity, recognition, they know. After a short recess, Judge Winters returns. The sound of her gavel echoes like a heartbeat in the quiet room. Based on the evidence presented, she begins. This court expands the restraining order to include Mrs. Lillian Keene. Gasps ripple through the gallery. The state of Florida will proceed with charges of identity theft, bank fraud, and witness intimidation against Mr. Victor Keene, and conspiracy to commit fraud against Mrs. Keene. 2 officers step forward. The metallic click of handcuffs snaps through the silence. Lillian, Victor hisses, his composure cracking. Tell them this is ridiculous. But my mother doesn't speak. She stares down at her hands, trembling, as if realizing only now the depth of the pit she helped dig. Judge Winters continues, her tone level, almost kind. The court orders immediate freezing of all identified assets pending restitution. Mr. Keene will remain in custody without bail due to the pattern of fraud and intimidation. Mrs. Keene, while not in custody today, faces further investigation for her role in these acts. The balance of power in the room flips. Where they once towered over me in authority, now they shrink beneath the weight of their own actions. I feel movement behind me, neighbors. Co-workers, even church members quietly shifting benches to sit on my side of the aisle. Mrs. Peterson, my old Sunday school teacher, reaches out and squeezes my shoulder as she passes. The gallery, once divided, silently declares where it stands. When the judge calls for victim statements, I rise. My knees don't shake this time. Your Honor, I begin, steady. This isn't just about money. It's about betrayal from the people I was taught to trust the most. Families should protect, not exploit. What they stole wasn't only my savings, it was my security, my sense of belonging. My gaze finds my mother. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for accountability. Because when betrayal wears the mask of family, it teaches you that silence is survival. I'm here to prove it's not. The judge nods slowly, her eyes steady on mine. Ms. Adler, this court commends your courage. Most victims of family financial abuse never come forward. Your case will set precedent for those too afraid to speak. She turns to Victor. Mr. Keene, you face up to 14 years in federal custody. Mrs. Keene, a minimum of 2 years probation, contingent on full cooperation with investigators. Carmen's hand finds my arm, a quiet squeeze. You did it, she whispers, but I don't feel triumph. Not yet. Only a clean, aching release, the moment when truth finally stands unchallenged outside. Rain drizzles over the courthouse steps. The sky smells of iron and renewal. I tilt my face upward, letting the cold drops wash through my hair. For the first time, the water feels like cleansing, not drowning. Caleb appears beside me, umbrella in hand. His expression carries both pride and sorrow. Ready to go? He asks stop, I nod. Yes, this time I walk away clean. Together, we step into the rain. Behind us, the courthouse doors close with a heavy thud, sealing the past where it belongs. 3 days after the sentencing, the world feels quieter. No reporters, no lawyers. No phone vibrating with new accusations, just the steady rhythm of life resuming its shape. Sit on a marble bench outside the courthouse. Morning sun glinting off the silver railings. Autumn leaves drift across the steps, their colors muted after days of rain. Beside me, the morning paper lies folded to the headline, Stepfather sentenced to 14 years for family fraud scheme, mother cooperates in plea deal. The article quotes my mother's public apology letter. Her words polished yet hollow. We made grave mistakes. I hope my daughter finds peace. Asterisk 14 years. It feels heavy and light all at once. Justice measured not in vengeance, but in proof that truth can still win. My phone buzzes with a text from Mrs. Harrington, my neighbor. Lasagna tonight. No arguments. The meal train has continued for weeks. Casseroles and comfort arriving from people who once looked away. Even the Wilsons across the street installed a camera angled toward my porch. Quiet gestures of community, replacing years of isolation. When Carmen steps out of the courthouse doors, her heels clicking on stone, she carries no briefcase this time, only a small smile. Credit Bureau number 3 cleared everything, she says, sliding her sunglasses on. Your score will be fully restored within 60 days. A laugh escapes me, unforced and light. You've become my favorite kind of magician. She chuckles. You were your own magician, Stephanie. I just watched you rebuild your life from rubble. The knot that's lived between my shoulders since the day at Sunrise Credit Union finally eases. Last night, I slept 7 uninterrupted hours. No midnight startle, no imagined footsteps. Just peace. That evening, I drive to Caleb's bungalow, where the smell of grilled steak and rosemary drifts from the backyard. He flips a steak with the same steady hands that once built my confidence plank by plank. To the family we choose, he says, raising his glass of iced tea. I clink mine against his. And not the one that chose to betray us. The backyard glows with soft yellow lights. Fireflies blink between us, their brief flashes like tiny affirmations that even darkness can create light. We eat quietly, laughter slipping easily between stories of childhood, the good memories that survive the wreckage. When the dishes are cleared, Caleb slides a document across the table. Co-ownership, he says. The lake cabin. Half yours. My throat tightens. You fixed it? Every board, every pane of glass. His smile widens. It's time to make new memories there. 6 months later, the cabin is reborn. Sunlight dances across the water as I stand on the porch, coffee steaming in my hands. The same lake that once reflected chaos now mirrors calm. Asterisk. I work remotely now. My title changed from project manager to fraud prevention specialist. The same credit union that once held my trauma now funds my purpose. Identity theft feels like drowning. I tell a group of seniors at a community seminar. But you can reach the surface again. Their faces lined. Kind, where watch me closely as I explain how to protect themselves. The same walls where I once felt powerless now echo with my voice, teaching others how to fight back. On weekends, I hold workshops for financial abuse survivors. Carmen visits occasionally, guest lecturing on the legal side. Caleb builds new benches for our small community center by the lake. The cabin's guest rooms are now healing retreats, offering short stays for those recovering from family financial betrayal. We call it the Restoration Project. One morning, as I hang new curtains, my phone buzzes with a text from Carmen. 3 new families just won their cases using your documentation template. You changed more lives than you know. Tears sting my eyes, not of sadness, but of release. Therapy helped me unlearn guilt. Dr. Linden's calm voice often echoes in my memory. Forgiveness isn't a gift you owe them. It's a freedom you owe yourself. Last month, my mother wrote again. Her letter was shorter this time. No excuses, no explanations, only one line that caught my breath. I understand now what love isn't. For the first time, I didn't feel the old ache of obligation. Only compassion from a safe distance. Full accountability first. Then we can talk about forgiveness. Exactly 1 year after it all began. I returned to Sunrise Community Credit Union. The lobby smells the same, lemon polish, coffee. Faint nostalgia. I'm waiting for a client when I overhear a conversation at the next desk. An elderly woman sits hunched, her son leaning over her shoulder. "Just sign it, Mom," he says impatiently. "It's a small loan. We talked about this." Her pen trembles in her hand. I recognize that fear, the weight of love and pressure twisted into confusion. I walk over, holding a brochure. "Excuse me," I say softly. "I'm Stephanie Adler, Fraud Prevention Department. We offer free reviews for new accounts." The son frowns. "We don't need that." But the woman meets my gaze, eyes tired, uncertain, and says quietly, "Actually, I'd like to hear more." We step aside. She talks. I listen. Her story sounds painfully familiar, but this time I can help. That evening, the lake glows gold under the sunset. Caleb hammers the last frame into the new retreat space while I paint a sign over the entrance. The restoration project, where broken trust becomes new strength. The smell of fresh wood and paint fills the air. Inside, a group of women share coffee and laughter. They're strangers connected by the same wound and by the belief that healing is possible. I look out across the lake, calm and endless, and realize something profound. The signature that once trapped me is the same symbol that freed me, the proof of their crime, and the start of my voice. Some family ties aren't meant to hold forever. Some are meant to break so that something honest, strong, and unshakably your own can grow in their place. And in the quiet reflection of the lake, I finally see it, freedom written in my own hand. A soft morning mist drifts across the lake like breath on glass. It's been 1 year since the verdict, 1 year since my old life ended and something better began. I stand on the cabin porch, the air cool and gentle against my skin. Below me, sunlight ripples across the water in ribbons of gold. The same view that once mirrored grief now reflects peace. The restoration project is thriving. 4 new guests arrived yesterday, survivors of financial abuse from across the state. They came with stories of manipulation, betrayal, and loss. Today, they'll share laughter by the fire pit, comparing notes on courage instead of pain. Inside, the walls are covered with framed photos, not of family portraits, but of milestones. The first fraud awareness workshop, the day the scholarship fund reached its first 100,000. The article titled "From Victim to Advocate: How One Woman Rebuilt Her Life." On the kitchen table, an envelope waits. The return address reads Department of Justice, Victim Assistance Division. Inside is a letter confirming the launch of a new grant, the Adler Initiative for Financial Empowerment, created from settlement funds won in the civil suit. I trace my fingers across my name at the bottom. Stephanie Adler, no longer a signature they forged. A name that stands on its own. That afternoon, I drive to Sunrise Community Credit Union for the monthly seminar. The same lobby, the same lemon polish, but this time, my ID badge reads Fraud Prevention Consultant. Howard greets me at the door with 2 cups of coffee. "Full house today," he says proudly. "We've got retirees, college students, even a few small business owners." "Good," I smile. That means people are finally talking. When I step to the front of the room, the murmur fades. "I used to sit in the same chair," I tell them, terrified, confused, thinking silence was protection. But silence only protects the wrong people. Speaking up protects everyone else. Pens pause. Heads lift. In every face, I see a piece of who I once was and who I've become. That night, back at the cabin, the fire crackles softly as Caleb tunes his old guitar. Carmen sits beside him, her laughter warm and unguarded. The night smells of pine and cinnamon tea. We raise our mugs in a quiet toast to new beginnings, Carmen says. To truth, Caleb adds. To peace that doesn't need anyone's permission. I finish. The stars shimmer across the lake like scattered glass. For a long time, I thought freedom was something you earn after pain. Now I know it's something you choose. Every day you refuse to let someone else write your story. I glanced down at the small scar on my collarbone, the one Victor left that day in the bank. It used to remind me of fear. Now it reminds me that survival can be rewritten as strength. I open my journal, the last entry of the year waiting to be written. The pen glides smoothly, my handwriting firm and sure. I forgave them, but I will never forget what silence costs. Because the signature they stole became the proof that saved me. And this time, the only name on the page is mine. The wind carries the scent of rain across the lake. Somewhere out there, another woman is walking into a bank, a courtroom, or a quiet office, realizing her worth is no longer negotiable. And I hope when she signs her name, she knows what I finally learned, that her signature, her truth, can never be stolen again.